A lot of our creation myths begin in darkness. Sometimes this darkness is given form and personified. An example of this is the Greeks called it Nyx, which meant the night. I think they believed that before anything else existed, there was nighttime, eternal darkness. Oftentimes, in these myths, nighttime is lonely, and the darkness is lonely, and seeks something that is not itself. And so perhaps it gives birth or somehow creates another entity that is unlike itself. Because of these myths, or perhaps the myths exist because of our natures, we reflect this onto our scientific understanding of the world. That there must have been a big bang, a moment where the quietness of the universe, the quietness of nothing, was interrupted. It's difficult for us to conceive of any other way it could have happened. Because after all, night would last forever if the sun didn't rise. Darkness would persist if man didn't light a fire, or if lightning didn't crack down and strike the earth, and the flash illuminates everything briefly. Before there were gods, there was an innate and instinctive understanding of the cycle of light and dark. The light, it seemed, was a gift to us, something that was given freely. The sun and the stars and the moon all lit the way. And when they were gone, when the clouds covered the sky and when the moon was completely invisible, in the middle of the night it would be completely dark, and we would be frightened and alone. So maybe we assumed that night was also frightened and alone. We also had dreams with us when we slept. We visited other places, other times. These random, chaotic visions that came to us, they can be quite scary to children. Over time, as we learn more about them and learn more about ourselves, we come to terms with them. We wake up from a bad dream and it does not affect us as much because it was just a dream. But there was a time when the human spirit was very childlike and did not understand the world like we do it now. And like children, we feared these things, and to cope with these fears, we told each other stories. Stories that brought hope, or stories that simply explained that this was the way things were. So to tell the story of that unending night that was lonely, it created a partner for itself. And that partner was change. It was light. It was energy. It was motion. Even to this day, we view the creation of our universe in these terms. Even our most esteemed scientists are often locked into these patterns of thinking. The idea that the universe is infinite and that it's always been here and always will be here scares us. But somehow the idea that an eternal being who thinks like us is not as quite as scary. Perhaps because we feel like it can listen to us and talk to us and act on our behalf. But the unending universe might as well be an eternal storm that never stops. It's been often said in a rather poetic sense that perhaps humanity, perhaps consciousness and sentience are tools for the universe to see itself, to become aware of itself, to wonder about itself, and to try to figure out what it is. An eternal yearning to know itself. And our own beliefs are shaped intrinsically by this desire, almost as if it's written into the laws and the fabric of the universe itself. A single directive: to know thyself. Before there were gods, we gave voices to everything: the wind, the sun, the stars, the moon, the oceans, the rivers, the trees. The animals. And we dreamed through these voices. The sun became a mighty king that rose up and conquered the darkness every single day, but grew weaker and weaker until the winter took it, and then gloriously rose again to bring back the summer. The storm became the anger of a being who threw a mighty weapon at the earth and cracked it open. Rain became a gift from the heavens that nourished our food and our crops, quenched our thirst, washed the dust off of us. I like to imagine that as we moved from trees to caves to eventually building tiny abodes out of clay and wood, I like to imagine that we kept the stories from those previous times and just adapted them Like Adam and Eve being cast out of the garden, maybe we realized we were losing something as we progressed. A memory of being content and happy at a more primitive state. And yet we yearned to progress. There's a Pink Floyd song called Echoes, and the lyrics speak of primordial ocean life crawling onto the earth. And nothing dragged them onto the ground. Nothing urged them to leave the oceans where they were comfortable. They just wanted to go, wanted to see, wanted to look and taste and experience. And some of them realized it was a better place for them. Over time, we gave names to everything that we thought had a spirit. We gave a name to the wind, and that became the name of a god. We gave a name to the sun, and that became the name of one of our brightest and most prominent deities. We gave names to these things so that we could tell stories about them. Functionally, there's no need to name the sun. If you're a wolf or a fox or a dolphin or an ant, its presence is merely a part of a cycle that has always been going on, and as far as they know, always will go on. But humans, in their desire to understand things, a desire that I empathize with quite a bit and relate to quite a bit, in our desire to understand things, we had to give them names. And eventually, our desire for order in what we perceived as a dangerous and dark chaos caused us to enforce those names onto others. We demanded they call them the same things, that they did the same rituals, that they sang the same songs. Because otherwise there was just too much to keep track of. And it distressed us greatly. I don't think humans are meant to be as connected as we are today. I do believe we can adjust and adapt and become a communal species, at least better than we're doing now. But I think we were meant to live in small enclaves with our families and our friends. And we were meant to have contact with our neighbors only and not worry about what's happening on the other side of the earth. When we all become connected, people impose order that they see fit on everyone around them. And sometimes that order is enforced with guns and violence. Other times it's enforced with convenience and luxury. But there's one thing I know about the human condition, and that is you cannot frighten a person into loving you. You cannot tempt or reward a person into loving you. Nor can you frighten or reward someone into changing themselves. True change. They can act different, and they can do something over and over until it becomes habit. But true change has to come entirely within us. No one else can make us take either the first or the last step on a path of change. They can guide us, they can offer advice, we can take that advice or ignore it, but we can't be forced to do it. At least not truly. Some of us are forced to act our entire lives, and I believe those people are deeply unhappy. I consider myself a good person, although I know that that doesn't really mean a lot in the grand scheme of things. What I consider to be a good person might be heretical to another. My limits and boundaries may be set differently than theirs, and they see those as detrimental to happiness, or maybe they see them as crushing and oppressive. It saddens me when people try to force other people to be good in the way that they see fit. Just as much as it saddens me to see people hating and hated, and for discord to flow between human souls. Before the gods, there was chaos, and the gods we created codified an order that all men should bow to. And to go against that order is to sow discord and discontent in the hearts of your fellow man. That doesn't mean that you're right and they're wrong either. It's just how it is. Like I said earlier, I think people weren't meant to be as connected as they are today. All this technology we have, even this recording I'm making right here, 10,000 years ago, there was no way to capture my voice. There was no way to send it to anyone on the earth in the blink of an eye. But we try to impose order on others. And there are those who seek to connect everyone forcibly if needed. They see it as being good and righteous. Beneath that order, there's still that chaos underneath. The sun still sets in our hearts, and nighttime emerges. And nighttime is the personification of chaos. The unknown. We can't see, we're stumbling around in the dark. I sometimes think that perfect order would be stillness, zero change. everything in its right place. Nothing needs to move. Nothing needs to grow. A crystalline world that has achieved perfection. And yet our human hearts, should they endure such a place, they would go mad. Likewise, I think of pure chaos as endless noise. No signal can cut through. Our hearts are divided between those two extremes. What is balanced for one may not be that way for another. Humans have different limits and different ideas. And yet, if the only way to pure happiness is to give every man his own world, give every person their own space, their own laws, their own limits, we'll never get there. For the border of my lands may overlap into yours, and you may not abide that. Likewise, the chaos, the thrill that some seek will disrupt the lives of others, and they can't abide that. Religion is our effort to codify that into human spiritual law. I admit that I don't know, what's behind the universe. I don't know if there is a God or gods. Sometimes I think I see the Creator, or at least their fingerprints, their shadows, the echo of their voice, but the Creator does not speak to us any longer, at least not in the physical world. They may come to us in our thoughts and our dreams, but we can never prove that to another person. We can never show them the evidence. We still remember the spirits that we put into those rocks, and the wind, and the trees, and the sun. That's still inside us to this day, because the exact same feelings, the exact same raw experience is the same. We have new ways to contextualize it and to reflect on it. New patterns that we can apply to old thoughts. It's a good thing that the sun comes up every day. And in ourselves, every day we see a new chance, a new hope to live better, to work harder, to be rewarded, to relax a little more, to let go a little more, or maybe to cling on to a little harder or a little tighter. Those feelings are echoes of how our ancestors felt, but they didn't have science and textbooks and lectures to explain to them that the sun is a giant ball of hydrogen and helium. Coming together, falling apart endlessly, held together by the gravity of its trillions and trillions of tiny pieces. And somehow knowing that doesn't get us any closer to our spiritual fulfillment. There are those who are raised on various religions around the world who find absolute certainty and comfort in what they were taught as children. And they are so sure it's right and so sure it's true. I simultaneously envy and pity those people. I think a little more envy than pity, though. Especially to the ones that truly seem at peace with it. Quantum theory states that everything is potential. Everything is chance or probability until we gaze upon it. That, in a sense, the universe requires an observer to be what it is. An unobserved universe would not exist in the same way that we exist now. I like to do a thought experiment. There's not a lot of real world value in it, but it's interesting to me. You know, it's an extension of the classic, a tree falls in the woods. Does it make a sound? If no one's around to listen to it or hear it. Let's say trillions and trillions of light years away, there's another universe exactly like ours. Every molecule in place, except there's no life. Maybe the equations were off, or maybe that's the natural state of the universe and we're the aberration, but there's nothing to observe it. If there's no single-celled organisms to crawl through it and touch compounds and molecules, there's nothing that is sensitive to photons or to vibration or to pressure. You know, there's still something there, perhaps. I mean, not perhaps, certainly there's something there. Assuming it exists, of course. When we would come upon that universe, if we traveled to it, we managed to break the speed of light, or we managed to travel at the speed of light and then somehow slow ourselves down. An instant would pass for us, and trillions of years would pass for the rest of the universe. But we would come across a place that resembled our own, and we would think all these things were orbiting, circling, flowing in accordance to these laws, and now we see it and we can confirm that it was happening. But we can't ever truly prove that it was like that up until the moment we gazed upon it. Schrodinger's cat, Schrodinger's universe. Can't help but to wonder if, in giving names and in imagining spirits within the natural world, we didn't actually implant that into the world. If the universe is infinite, then everything we can possibly conceive of is out there. real. There are unicorns on another planet that looks just like the Earth. There are dragons. There are harmonious human civilizations that live together in peace. Until we gaze upon them, they are nothing but dreams, perhaps, to us. Although, if there are observers in those places, we're just dreams to them. There could be someone recording a video right now thinking, I live in a harmonious, peaceful universe. What if there's a universe out there that is in turmoil? And he's thinking of me, perhaps. How I would love to have a conversation with that person. Across the multiverse. And pick their brain. Hear their thoughts. I don't think it would bring me any closer to understanding the true nature of the universe, but like the darkness seeking out its other, we also seek out our others. Our spouse, our companions, the light to our darkness or the darkness to our light. We're all out there looking for that spark of the unknown. To each of us, it's different, and to each of us, it's sacred. And to try to make sense of that chaos surrounding us, we tell ourselves stories.